Hello and welcome to the Tifo Football Podcast. I'm Joe Devine, and I'm delighted to be joined by Seb Halfords-Floor, back from Germany. You had a couple of days off there, Halfords-Floor, didn't you?
Feel better for it. Feel refreshed.
You feel refreshed?
And a bit worse, because I kind of stopped, relaxed, felt worse.
Right.
Then came back.
And then improved. And you've improved. You've come back in a green jumper.
Yeah.
Lovely jumper, isn't it?
Controversy today,
A brave man to do that.
Yeah.
On internet live streams, any form of internet broadcast wearing green.
True.
That is the second time someone said something like that to me
Doesn't
today.
think it through, does he, Carl?
It's
good. You're on the blue screen, and we're not doing anything special, so nothing to worry about. I actually think that colour looks lovely on you, and I'm happy to see you.
It does.
Yeah. Also happy to see JJ Bull, who's in a Christmas France jumper. Yeah.
Yes.
Is there a method behind your choice today? Because, of course, available in the office, we also have Argentina wear or Croatia tops, don't we?
There's many choices. Today I've chosen France because blue is nice.
Are you trying to send us a message about tomorrow? England
You're
play
writing an
France.
essay, like
I'm
a
not trying
year
to say
7
anything.
book report.
Yes. Yes, exactly. That's exactly what I'm doing.
There we go. And the other voice here you can hear in the room is we're delighted to be joined, of course, by Carl Anker. Hi, Carl.
Hi, buddy. How you doing?
What are you wearing?
This is a Como FC jersey.
Oh.
Como FC, the team that Cesc Fabregas now applies his trade for. And they've got a nifty little program called Como for Como. So you get a shirt and some of the money goes to local services
I like the
in
little
the
fish.
region. Yeah.
Is that a fish?
That's just the sponsor.
That's the sponsor. I'm a fan of that sponsor's logo.
It's a streaming platform, I believe.
Oh, well, there we go. Learn something new every day. Right, fine. Listen, we've got so much to get through today. An incredible day of football, I think it's fair to say. We're going to talk about Netherlands, Argentina. We're going to talk about Brazil, Croatia as well. And, of course, there'll be a little bit of time for points about. But, Seb, have you enjoyed yourself today? I mean, it was a huge day. First of the quarterfinals. In a footballing sense, it really paid off.
It's felt like an assault of football. Just because it's been so dramatic. I think the cost, when you have two great games back to back, I think the cost is sort of the hour of the second game that you sort of ignore. You watch it and it happens in front of you, but you don't really digest any of it at all.
Yes.
And it felt like I'd been hit in the face a little bit by Brazil against Croatia. So don't ask me about anything that happened in the first bit of Holland against.
I think one of the fun things about a game that becomes 2-2 late on and goes to penalties is that you don't really need to talk about the first hour.
I felt like I needed the comeback to pick me up for the live stream.
Yeah.
Like I didn't have a lot of energy before the Dutch brought it back to 2-2.
Sure.
But I'm sort of back, a little deflated by the penalty loss.
Yeah.
It's kind of felt behind.
Well, talk about deflating. Do you know what would inflate your knowledge of football? The Athletic. Visit theathletic.com/Tifo, theathletic.com/Tifo. You can read all of the incredible journalists' work, including Carl Anker. What have you written recently, Carl?
Today I wrote a piece assessing the substitutes from all the 8 quarterfinals. Basically going, right, here are the most common lineups all these teams use. Here's the most common substitutes all these teams use. And here's a little bit about how these managers often use their substitutes as well.
Who's got the best subs?
See, possibly Portugal now. So if in terms of just pure numbers, who's got the most goals, assists off the bench, then you'd say maybe England because it's been quite dispersed. But Portugal in Rafael Leao, who's now come off the bench in all 4 games and scored 2 goals, is one of those, they've got a really dangerous plan B. So that would be quite interesting. Croatia are the most known quantity remaining at this World Cup, I wrote, and remain that way as well. And France and England are quite interesting, although Southgate is a very unique manager in terms of substitutes. I've been working on this sort of comparison for a while, but I keep thinking a manager uses substitutes in the same way you or me would use their spice rack when you're making dinner.
So not at all, is that in my case?
Some use not at all. Some would use it based on what the recipe book would say beforehand. Some would go actually based on the touch and feel of what's going on.
I know better.
Yeah.
I know better. And I'll implement something.
right.
And Southgate for me, especially over the Euros campaign, very much struck me as someone who used this spice rack based on a preset plan or recipe I did beforehand. So if you're listening to this and you watch the Euro final, it was very evident from the hour mark that Gareth Southgate needed to make a substitute because the back 3 was getting pinned back and it was becoming a back 5, and Trippier and Walker were doing very well, but you needed to make a change. And Southgate held and he held and he held and he held, and you're going, big man, your food's burning. You might need to recover some flavour here.
Sure.
And that didn't occur.
No. Sprinkle a little cinnamon on there. Do people put cinnamon on food?
I really like cheese sandwiches, and they're quite plain.
Yeah, I like salt.
Yeah, I love salt as
You know
well.
salt?
But sometimes you need something fancier, like fajitas.
Pepper, like pepper.
Yeah.
I don't like pepper.
You know pepper? They're the ones you've got.
I think peppers are quite spicy, isn't it? Don't like pepper.
You could put gunge.
Gunge?
In your food. Yeah.
Yeah, I like a nice beige meal. Anyway, that's The Athletic. Visit theathletic.com/Tifo. Not at all beige. Right, fine. For now, I will leave you in the warm hands and the cool embrace of Mr. Carl Anker.
Hi, friends. How's it going?
Oh,
Yeah.
what do we need?
Yeah, you need to move it back a bit because you're missing your mic sometimes when you're turning to Joe.
Is it audio or framing? Framing. It's audio. Okay, fine. So where do we stick Carl? Come move Carl for us. In to your left, Carl.
If you go this way.
Okay.
I'll move you.
There we go.
I like to move.
I think if you move the mic up a little bit as well, it'll help because it's a little bit lower.
There we go.
Things. And then there with the chat there. Oh. How's that?
Hooray.
Don't ever move.
Okay. Just move my head, not my shoulders.
So you need to turn around with the mic like that. So when you're talking
Like one of
that.
these things. With
Did
this is
you
the center of
ever
my circumference.
watch Yogi Bear cartoons?
Yes.
So Yogi Bear's shirt sleeve is one of the most important things in animation because if you watch the cartoons, Yogi Bear's body doesn't move; it's just his head, and the shirt sleeve collar
Yes.
is the bit that does separation, and that was a really easy way to save money on animation because you only had to animate Yogi Bear's head.
It is funny when you notice those things when you're watching those films, isn't it?
Yogi Bear's shirt collar is one of the most important things in terms of Western animation.
I noticed that a lot when I was making my cartoon.
Yeah. Any way to plug that cartoon, isn't there?
You made a cartoon?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Shame this bit's not going to make it into the podcast.
No,
isn't it?
but the chat can see it. Yeah.
I would like to see your cartoon.
I'll send it to you.
Amazing.
He will. He will.
I look forward to it.
You should put it in the live chat now. Let people watch it.
Yeah.
Is it not appropriate?
No, that's fine.
It's appropriate.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. What's it called? Where can they find it?
It doesn't matter. I'll tell you.
Doesn't
later.
matter. Now you're all coy about it.
I didn't make it.
Animation.
Yeah. We've only got an hour with these cameras fully turned off. Let's do
All right, fine. Here we go. Fine. Where else to begin, of course, than with, well, in fact, today we could have begun anywhere. But today, Netherlands 2 Argentina, 3-4 on penalties. Seb Stafford-Bloor. Now, we will talk about the penalties, and we'll talk about Argentina, of course, but the first thing I do want to discuss is the last-minute free kick. The Wout Weghorst goal. I mean, the goal.
Imagine if that didn't work out. Okay, so obviously, great moment, amazingly intricate free kick, great finish, all those kind of things. Imagine if 2-1 down, you get a free kick in that position, you've got 3 highly gifted free kick takers standing around it, and a free shot on goal. And you do that, and instead of falling for it, which by the way, it's a free kick routine that Argentina almost exactly pulled off against England in 1998. Very, very, very similar. But imagine if you do that and it just peters out and someone just boots it off, and that's the end of the game. And that's why I kind of love it. It's because there's such jeopardy to it, and there's such a conviction that it's going to work. And most people like a training ground routine for a corner or a set piece or whatever. But to do it in the 99th minute of a World Cup quarter final, it's brilliant. A brilliant moment.
Yeah.
You loved it and then hated it because it kind of condemned us to an extra 30 minutes.
Well, I loved it for the goal.
And
I
then
enjoy goal.
you
One of my
went-
favourite types of things.
Yeah, you went from 100 to 0 very, very quickly.
Well, I just realised what was going to happen, and then I was another half an hour and a little behind the scenes stuff here. Editor Nathan unavailable today, so guess who's editing the podcast when they get home? It's me. I don't want to do that.
I think one of the sort of the underappreciated parts of it though is the disguise on the ball into the box, because
Yes.
you can give that away by being a bit too deliberate. Because if you know
It
what's
was
coming,
fantastic.
you have to sell it right, and it's sold brilliantly. And it's it's just a great, genuinely, despite what happened in penalties, a great World Cup moment.
That might be the goal of the tournament in
Maybe.
terms of
Context,
difficult
maybe.
context,
Yeah.
difficult of execution, the amount of jeopardy involved,
Yeah.
what's on the line, the fact that it both requires individual imagination and collective choreography.
Yeah. And skill. I mean,
Yeah,
the Weghorst's finish is not easy, right?
It's sort of that kind of clip you get on one of those old VHS things, like Nick Hancock and that. People remember that one forever. It's one of those. It's like Van Persie's header or something. People just remember that one. Yeah.
Yeah, that'll be on DVDs and highlight packages on YouTube forever.
It was the goal that I think has made everyone where I am stand up and go, oh,
Yeah.
the most. We've seen goals so far where plenty of people, half the room or more have done that, but I think everyone in the room did a stand up. Oh, anyway, there we go. That was the goal. But of course, Argentina do progress, Carl, winning on penalties. It was Emi Martinez who saved the first two of the Netherlands penalties, and you sort of felt there wasn't really any coming back from that.
No. Emi Martinez is an exceptional penalty shootout operator. Very famously given it to Yerry Mina during the Copa America that Argentina eventually won, where Messi infamously said to Yerry Mina afterwards, "Vaya ahora, dance now, dance now." He's a really interesting goalkeeper in that you can both sledge him, but also he reaches this sort of temperature or nexus where he just becomes the perfect goalkeeper for this international scenario. Losing your foot, going 2 penalties down in the shootout, very often you are done and dusted. Someone reminded me earlier in this tournament that a rare incident where someone was 2 goals up in a penalty shootout and eventually lost was Ghana in the 2015 AFCON final against the Ivory Coast, where Hervé Renard was the Ivory Coast coach. But yeah, this was the Netherlands have an atrocious penalty record in international tournaments. It's sort of, well, until England beat Colombia in 2018, the Netherlands had their big sort of, we're really bad at this, until they beat Costa Rica in 2014 with Louis van Gaal. Very famously, Francesco Totti, his autobiography, I'm going to chip him now, is a reference to what they did in Euro 2000 against the Netherlands and Van der Sar. So yes, I imagine there's some Dutch viewers that when they went to penalty shootout, they had the innate elation of, hooray, went to extra time penalties, and the penalty shootout side went, oh God, it's a penalty shootout, and we're Dutch. Louis van Gaal, in the Louis van Gaal? So let me say that again. Virgil van Dijk says in the Louis van Gaal documentary that if it goes to penalty shootouts, he would like to Netherlands to go first, and as the captain, he would like to take the first penalty. And Van Gaal has a moment, he goes, yeah, okay, I respect your chutzpah, but you have to score your first one. And Virgil reassures him that he'll score his first penalty. It didn't go to plan.
The thing with the Louis van Gaal, like the kind of the narrative around this tournament, I'm so glad that at 0-2, the Dutch did what they did, because it wouldn't have been terrible if after everything he's been through and the kind of what he's had to overcome to be at the tournament, to qualify the Dutch for the tournament, they'd gone out 2-0 and it was a bit meek before he made his substitutes. As it was, and I put this on Twitter, it feels like a kind of an archetypal Van Gaal moment, because it's, I'm making the subs that everybody else is going to mock, putting on 2 big players, and everybody did. Everybody on Twitter laughed. Oh, Veikos has come on. Luke de Jong's come on. You're not going to achieve that. This is the end of your career, and you're playing 4-4-2, and you're lumping out to big men. And then you can imagine Van Gaal doing that, and Van Gaal being utterly convinced he's right about it. Be like, I don't care. I don't care what's going to come my way if it doesn't go wrong. I just believe that it's going to go right, and it did. Yeah, like they lost on penalties, sure, and that's a different kind of failure. But what a comeback.
Yeah, Van Gaal's a really interesting character. He's a very proud man, and he's often described as the most arrogant man in the Netherlands. But also, he doesn't seem particularly encumbered with the concept of legacy. And we're always talking about legacy in athletes. And one of the things I like and also loathe about sports media is that we very often don't describe things as they're happening, and often describe things as what they will be written about 10, 15 years from now, and very often just chill.
It feels easier to do that though, doesn't it? It feels kind of safe to evaluate someone when they've stopped doing the thing you're evaluating them for, and to be able to look back and have a perspective of it all. Whereas when something's happening, you always feel like it's liable to change. I guess that's the reason people enjoy this sport or sports generally.
Yeah. But the thing I always find interesting is if Van Gaal's career and his legacy and the way he's talked about and loved and hated by people with various sides, if you ask him about that genuinely, he is largely he is to a pleasing degree quite unbothered about that, and is very much going, I will allow the people in the barbershop, the people in the sports media, and those people to decide what my legacy is. I'm not going to let that go here this way or that way. So yes, in that sort of thing of, I'm right, I am going to put 2 big lads on, and if this is how I go out, I don't care, because I'm ultimately the person who made that decision. It's a very Van Gaal way of
he
going
seems
about
to refreshingly live in the present, doesn't he? Which is nice. And of course, this might be we don't know, but it might be his last game in charge of the Netherlands. So.
Yeah, and what an interesting career. I think it's kind of a backloaded career in a sense, because for the last decade, you'd say that Louis van Gaal has not necessarily been at the forefront of European football. what a durable character, what an interesting person. Basically everything Carl's just said, because I think when you listen to him, and he referenced the documentary on Amazon earlier, I think you get sort of a snapshot into just a very compelling human being, and someone who's survived a lot of conflict, someone who has been able to kind of, I mean, listen, if you think about sort of if you think about the period of time from his Champions League win with Ajax to the present day, that is a very long time in modern football. That is over a quarter of a century now. And to still have relevance, to still be coaching at the highest level, and a World Cup quarterfinal is the highest level, is an amazing feat. And as we've said, we've mentioned the documentary a few times, just because I think it's important that people are aware of kind of the things that he was physically put through to get this far. And it's the perfect ending would have been to win the World Cup. That's not going to happen. But I think sort of the last 15 minutes is a little snapshot into who Louis van Gaal has been. Beyond the trophies and beyond the sort of the reinvention and kind of the fabled Dutch belief in whatever, as a man and as a person, sort of the way he views the game, I think that's a very, very interesting sort of period.
Well, he said, JJ, I think it was after the round of 16 game, and forgive me, I couldn't find the exact quote, but he talked about how he didn't think that the bigger teams in the tournament would change their tactical setup when they came to play the Netherlands, but that the Netherlands would adapt around other teams that they played. I think it was after the USA game that he said this. But today, Argentina did change. What did they do, and why did they do that?
Argentina changed to a back three, like a back five, and because we know the Netherlands are going to play with their back five, but the real trouble is Denzel Dumfries. He's one of their most important attacking players. He plays at right wing back. So in the way that the Netherlands play, they have a back five as actually a back four, because the two wide centre backs, Timber and Ake, are both comfortable at left back and right back, so they come over to shift. Then you got Daley Blind, can get forward if he wants to, but it mostly stays a bit deeper. And then Dumfries comes up really high and wide. So then you've got basically Dumfries as a wide right. You've got Memphis Depay, whoever's up top, Bergwijn, Gakpo. That's part of your three. And maybe Blind will push up a little bit deeper. So they get their front five that a lot of teams create. But the real problem, like I said, is Dumfries. So what Argentina did to stop this is change their shape. So they played with, Argentina have played with a front two all tournament long. So it's not a huge departure from it, right? And they've been playing a diamond with a 4-4-2 diamond, basically. So 4 diamond 2. So the difference is that obviously the extra centre back comes in, Martinez, but he can play at left back as well. So they're doing a similar sort of thing. So Acuna can push up, which then makes Dumfries busy. So he can't really do much about it.
That's Acuna, who I believe is suspended for the semi-final now.
Is that right? I didn't know that bit well.
A yellow card.
They've got, what's his name, Tagliafico. Is he play at left back? Is he right back? He's left.
He'll play as a left back. Montiel is suspended as well.
Yeah.
Is that right? Well,
So
I mean, they'll be all right. They'll be fine. So it's the same sort of thing. The 4 becomes a 3. Then Messi kind of floats around. You've got De Paul as his
Bodyguard.
So exactly. So like Messi doesn't do much of the defensive work, so De Paul does it for him. It's quite clever the way they use that. But you are kind of down a man when you're defending, which is, I think, was relevant towards the end of that game, because they couldn't put any pressure high up. They're so deep, they're caught into it. But they adapted this, and it took Dumfries out of the game. He didn't really touch the ball. He didn't do much with it whatsoever. And then what they also did was that while they're in that shape, was that Molina started pushing forward really high as well. And that's where they got a lot of joy from, is that Acuna was more of like a actual winger. Molina was pushing forward to push Blind back a little bit. And then you had Martinez was sitting as a left back. And then Dumfries was trying to get back to help out Timber on that side. So it just disrupted how the Netherlands play. And then the change that Van Gaal made was going to that 4-4-2 with 2 big lads up top. It's quite fun how the 4-4-2 has become all fashionable again after many years of not being. But you can do different things with it. And that's what happened. Well, there we go.
Also, well done Romero, who was really aggressive on the late arrivals into the box from the Dutch players as well. Cody Gakpo, who went back to number 10. Great ball striker, fantastic ball striking ability, and was meant to be loads of late entries to the box, but just couldn't, because Romero was just so aggressive there. And I just remember a bit, like you said, the first hour was a bit of a blur because you were still calming down from the Brazil result. But I do remember there was a bit early on in the second half where you had changes where Steven Bergwijn came off. Louis van Gaal brought in Steven Berghuis, and De Roon went off for Cooper Minas even. And Depay got progressively deeper and deeper and deeper, which just completely negated any idea attacking waves of progression, because Memphis is meant to essentially try and be the last line occupant and also bring others into the game. And when he was playing so deep, you go, this is not working entirely, which is why Van Gaal brought in some big lads.
Yeah. Well, big lads to wreck you. I mean, you can understand why a team sort of instinctively drops deeper when they're playing against Lionel Messi, can't you, JJ? Who you said halfway through the game, you said you feel that Messi is going to win the World Cup now.
It feels like the whole thing's been built around Messi winning it because it makes certain tournaments look better.
Right.
If he does. It feels a bit like that. I mean, obviously that's not, it can't be
Sure.
what's really happening.
But do you, I mean, this isn't necessarily analysis, but do you feel it that he's going to win?
I feel that there's some sort of thing going on, good
Yeah.
vibes. I think it's vibes. That people who just want Messi to win it, it would just be really good if he won it. It would
Sure.
cement his place as the greatest ever. It would be
Again, that
nice.
thing about legacy, where you describe things about legacy rather than what's actually happening in front of your eyes.
You
What's
tell
it-
him, Carl,
well,
what's
yeah.
happening in front of your eyes?
Well, what's happening in front of our eyes is we've seen Messi take over games in the knockout stages, which he did very well in 2014 without necessarily scoring goals, but he now is pressing the button and going to hero mode. I mean,
Yeah.
should we just eulogize about that assist, shall we?
Do it.
It's absolutely absurd.
It seemed like the whole world sort of turned around him, didn't it?
Yes. So the original view you see and the one we saw on broadcast, it's very much described as a no-look pass. It's one, passing ambition, two, passing vision, passing intelligence as well, to be able to funnel. I can only really describe it as funnel the ball between Nathan Ake's legs and understand that the other person will receive it right at that correct amount of time.
Yeah.
Is the sort of pass that I think Adam Crafton tweeted, there's thousands of people in the football stadium, yet only Lionel Messi would be able to see that pass. And there's the sort of spider tactical view from up top where you can see it as well, and from the area where he's collecting the ball. And you watch it 3 or 4 times and you go, how did he see that?
Yeah.
There's a little bit where he almost faints to make the first pass and takes another touch. And I'm not a particularly good football player. I'm not a particularly good passer of the ball. My eyes aren't very good and I wear contact lenses. But I would like to imagine the feint allowed him that extra millisecond of a time to go, there he is, if I hit it into that space at that point in time.
It does seem like that, because there was a moment also in I think it was in extra time, where I remember Martin Keown on the co-coms today saying, oh, there he is in that space again, he loves that space, which was the space in front of the box, in front of the centre-backs and behind the midfielders, in the little area. But when you then looked at it from the spider cam afterwards in the replay, there's no time at all. There's like less than a second, and he manages 2 touches and a shot, which is deflected wide. But I think if it wasn't deflected, it was going to be a goal. I think when you're watching it from the broadcast angle, it almost gives the impression that there is more space than there is. And you see that next angle, and there's none.
Do you think one of the things Messi does really well?
Football.
Football he does very well.
Yeah.
He plays football to a really high standard.
Yeah.
He changes the speed of a game. So, you always have this 1-2 punch where, we talked about the pass, the disguise, the vision to see it also. But, he has these little touches where the speed of the game just changes really dramatically to the point where it seems to create a bit of a fracture in the player ahead of him. So all the defenders kind of have that, oh my God, Messi's doing something, kind of feeling all at once. And then the pass comes in like a knife towards the penalty box. And when you think about it and you go back through his career, Messi is not he's... Listen to everything I'm about to say.
I'm listening.
The first bit.
I'm listening.
But he's not skillful in a kind of self-indulgent way. He doesn't go through players, doesn't go past players with roulettes and kind of flick-flacks.
He's not a 5-star FIFA player.
This is it. He just does
one of his most common trick moves is the croqueta, which is
Right.
the croqueta,
Exactly.
which is where you just knock it between your ankles.
Double tap.
and it's
yeah.
kind of it's changes of speed, not necessarily kind of it's not illusion, is it? And his balance is so good, his center of gravity is so low that it's very, very difficult to respond quickly to that because he goes. It's like changing cars in a gear, changing gears in a car, but going from 2 to 5 in
It's playing with time.
It's
Like I've said before,
extraordinary.
yeah, it's that he operates in a slightly different time to everyone else. So
Yeah.
everyone else operates as though they've got animations, so they have to fill out the
Certain
animation.
frames, yeah.
Exactly, but he just operates outside of that. So then you can't react because it's not what you possibly could expect because it's not what the animation's meant to do.
Hey, so David in the chat makes a really good point. He said it's skill for function, not style, and that's a really, really good way of putting it. That's exactly what I mean. Yeah.
He's got a poet's eye and a comedian's
Good for
timing.
you, David. Well done.
There we go. Okay, fine. Well, that's Messi. He's good. Now, what made the Netherlands so bad, JJ? Let's talk about that because you all seem to be disappointed with them. And I will preface this and say before their sort of revival, and then again a bit afterwards, you were disappointed.
Well, I think part of it was the passing tempo was very slow, but that's normal in the quarterfinal of a World Cup. You're a bit nervous, whatever, and also the entire stadium is full of Argentina fans, so it's basically it's like an away game. And I think the thing you've got with that system, that 5-2-1-2 that you play, I've seen Scotland use it a lot, and it's very narrow. So you've got all your midfielders and your forwards tend to be quite narrow. The forwards are meant to go wide to offer a pass, but Argentina had them pretty locked down. There's nothing really special that the Argentina manager used. It's just it makes sense to outnumber them. You met like in different parts of the pitch.
Yes,
and they kind of did that, and because they couldn't then use the width of Dumfries and Blind was getting stuck back. They had no width, and so increasingly, and like you're saying, Memphis but Thailand drops deeper and deeper and deeper, and you've got no one really pushing the opposition back, so you've got no space to pass into. So when you play five-a-side and the striker in the middle doesn't stay up top, they have to keep dropping in, and there's no space. And so you just have to do that and push them up. And so you put big lads on, like the Weghorst and what's his chops went upstairs.
Luke de Jong.
Yes, De Jong. Then they go up, and suddenly you can pin the defenders back a little bit. And even though they're not touching the ball, they're completely changing the game because they're pushing the defenders back to give everyone else room in the midfield. So then suddenly they can play more. I mean, there's more to it. There's momentum, and there's chasing the game and all that stuff as well. But I think that stuff's really relevant. It's really important.
The aggression of Argentina's defence meant so that this Dutch team relies on the skill sets of 2 or 3 very unique individuals to make work. So the central midfield pivot is quite ordinary until you realise one of those people is Frankie de Jong, who can find a way to just dribble through central midfield at a rate that most people aren't supposed to. Your wing backs are the wing back system. So having one wing back just constantly be in the final third, while one wing back is quite good in terms of ball progression, shouldn't work. But Denzel Dumfries has the weirdest skill set I have ever seen from a wing back.
You came marching through into our part of the office talking about Denzel Dumfries, almost to yourself.
He was kind of muttering about
what is it that you feel about Denzel Dumfries?
He is, and I've said this to John, in that, and I'm going to have to compare things to combat sport. So when Conor McGregor was going through his big run through UFC, he's
an MMA fighter.
McGregor's big thing was he was just really annoying in press conferences. He'd insult you, he'd get under your skin, and the whole thing was eventually, you can beat McGregor if you wrestle him properly. But McGregor would just annoy you so much that you go, I just want to punch him.
Right.
Until McGregor met Nate Diaz, Nate Diaz is a unique individual who might be I'm going to be very careful here.
It's live.
He does. I
have no idea what you're going to say.
Nate Diaz didn't respond to sledging properly because he was meant to get really, really angry and forget his game plan. But Nate Diaz doesn't really have a game plan, so he's like, "Yeah, whatever, bro." Right. So when they got into the fight, Diaz was simply just forgot that he was supposed to be too angry in fight and just went to his game plan anyway.
And it worked.
Denzel Dumfries is a player who makes.
That's what we were talking about.
Yeah, there you go. Denzel Dumfries is a player who does take-ons over and 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 keeps going to the final third over and over and over and over.
He's not impacted by the results of the last one.
He doesn't get discouraged by what's just happened.
That's quite good, that, isn't it? It's good skill to have.
It's a weird one because at a certain level in professional football, you're supposed to take previous data and let it inform your next bit of data and go, if I keep running outside, he's going to beat me for pace. Maybe I should run inside. And Dumfries doesn't do that. He just keeps running on the outside. However, he is such a superb, this feels mean, he is such a superb athlete. He is so quick with the ball and he is so tenacious that even though he's just headbutting himself constantly to get into that final third, it works more often than not. Which is why he runs that system through him, which is why putting Acuna on him just go, no, you can't run this way. Created that stoppage in the thing. So you had that weird vessel that couldn't work. And Daley Blind, again, a player who has his flaws. If you're a Manchester United fan, you're like, this guy is not quick enough. He definitely went to the wrong Manchester club, but he is massively important to how this system works and how it's quite asymmetrical. But Blind makes it work because he's very clever, can drop in to create a four. He's also got very good vertical passing, and when there is space in front of him, Blind can make very good ball carries. So you're relying on those people to bring that unique skill set on. So if you just have Argentinian defenders go, just stop that person doing the thing they're very, very good at, you negate that thing. To bring another cross-sport comparison, there's some very, very good NBA coaches that say the big difference between playing league basketball and playing playoff basketball is when you play in the playoffs, scouts go, what is that player very, very good at? Let's take that weapon away from him. And we've heard this in the Premier League, in one of the big changes from going from playing in the bottom half of the Premier League to getting signed to a club like Manchester United and whatnot, is you go from being coached on your strengths and whatnot to when you're playing teams, but other teams go, what's he really strong at? Let's take it away from him. This is, going far too far off the point. Wan-Bissaka very much had a point over at Manchester United where he was really good at 1v1s. And it was like, he's really good at 1v1s. And then loads of coaches started playing Manchester United. Wan-Bissaka went, let's take away his 1v1 defending. See what he's got next. And you have to adapt or change.
Yeah.
And the Netherlands were really flat here because Argentina's game plan was, let's take away the very good things their best players have and see how they cope. And they couldn't for 60 to 75 minutes.
It's funny when you say that. I think the player that I most remember that happening to and coming through it, purely because of my age, I think, is Wayne Rooney, who burst onto the scene 16 years old and was very explosive and scored these incredible goals and could run past anybody. And when he got to the stage, a year or two later, his output diminished because, even just to put it very simply, like the opposition team started to put two players on him. And when you see what he was still able to do throughout his career as someone whose strengths were targeted by opposition teams, still able to compete at that top level, I mean, that's the standard you want to set as one of the best players in the world, isn't it?
I think this is a given that you have to achieve as any top player. Like you have to, like Rooney's a good example because you're right. And then Rooney added stuff to his game. Like sort of 2 or 3 years in, he became someone that would make late runs into the penalty box, started scoring headers, something that Ferguson talked about publicly, that need for him to attack certain areas in the box and sort of weaknesses in defense. But if you think about like every great player, like it's a game of chase, isn't it? So you have all your traits on camera and you have armies of data scientists and analysts at clubs who find out ways to, clog up that area or stop you doing this, or just go and kick him or something like that. The truly exceptional player just keeps getting better and just keeps that distance ahead of, whatever's chasing him. Yeah. And it's very interesting. Ronaldo did it. Messi's done it. I think if you, you want to dive a little bit deeper, players like Aaron Robben did it. Like people think about Robben was always, he does one thing. Well, he does it well enough and to a high enough standard and with enough variation to keep being able to do it.
That was a big thing.
That's the critical point, right?
If you watch the Bayern Munich game, Robben didn't just cut inside
exactly
and shoot. He had a catalogue of feints he would use. Yeah. I remember talking to John Obi Mikel about just all of these players and the things you don't see. And he said one thing about Robben is he doesn't have one cut inside and shoot. He is like a boxer's jab, just different feints and whatnot. So you didn't know which one he was going to use to do it, which made it very difficult. And to swing it back to this game, Mikel also said the thing about Messi that no one properly gets is, again, he is on a different time signature. He goes, Messi's an alien. He goes, you can get in the gym maybe 4 or 5 times for 400 or 500 hours and maybe get enough abs to be Cristiano Ronaldo, or to take a free kick like Cristiano Ronaldo, or to, eventually you might one day perfect the Thierry Henry cut inside and put in the far corner. But whatever Messi does and how Messi interprets the game is just so utterly unique that he does things that you can't legislate for. And I think the Netherlands lost this game because Scaloni took away their strongest tools. So they took away Dumfries, they took away Blind. They were very good at locking down De Jong and Memphis. And they just went, well, we've got the little man in the back.
We've got the outlier.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, listen, there we go. Let's have a break. And when we come back, we are going to talk about referees. Oh, a lovely break, that one. Enjoy the fun of that break, yeah?
It's nice, break. Refreshing. Good.
Now, JJ, let me level something against you, as I see that you have now begun to hear me. Yes. Were you reading the live chat there?
And I was also looking at the yellow cards that were dished out. One of them is just someone without a name.
Oh, that's well. I mean, it was unclear. At one point, it did look like the referee was booking the entire stadium. Yeah. But now, listen. You hate referees. We all know that. So does Seb. Don't giggle.
Yeah, no, I do, yeah.
You both, I think, have biases, very strong biases.
It's kind of
against
a
referees.
cornerstone to our friendship, actually.
That's right. Yeah, you sometimes on
phone
Mondays
JJ
you go
just,
and burn people's houses down, referees' houses. Yeah, for sure.
It was my challenge assigned at birth when they give you the thing you have to do.
Yes.
You know when they give you the thing.
Mine was to annoy you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Is it working?
Yeah.
Yes. Thank you, Mother.
But, I mean, that's good, but you have to achieve the ultimate goal.
Sure.
I don't know what that is for you. Mine is to
yours is to
end refereeing.
Yours, I've not really actually to be giving you a credit. I've not really heard it that much from you. Your normal thing is to watch football and call 90% of fouls not fouls, which I quite enjoy. Seb's normal thing is to say the referee's making it about themselves again. The referee just wants the attention again, which I find quite funny because that's when you've toppled over into emotion leading your mouth instead of rationale. But I want to talk about refereeing in this game because I've watched the live chat the entire time. Right, this has been the plan since the beginning, but I've watched the half of the live chat's been about this referee, who I don't want to single this person out specifically. But
they behaved in a way that singled them out specifically.
Did you think so though?
Yes,
because the commentators also said this. The commentators made on the BBC, I think, made a quip at one point saying, "Oh, I don't think we'll see this referee again." So I was like, "It's not been that bad." Also, this game is chaos. It's chaos. Like what? I'm not sure. I'm not defending the referee.
You allowed chaos to step.
I feel like the stuff we heard on the BBC came from people who perhaps don't watch a lot of Mathieu Laho's refereeing.
Yes. Sure.
If you watch a bit of Spanish football, even a little bit, you'll have come across this referee before. And
what's your issue?
No issue. It's just he has a bit of a reputation.
Name him.
Mathieu Lahos.
Thank you.
He likes flamboyance. He likes to brandish his cards in a certain way. Yeah. He enjoys the theatre of
the way
refereeing.
He's saying it. You don't know what he likes. You know what you observe him to have done.
I have watched him referee enough games.
See, live, you can see the switch has happened. It's occurred in the
I've
brain.
Got emotional.
You've got two cogs,
I've got emotional.
and you've gone on the emotional cog.
Don't get rattled.
I feel that what we saw today.
I feel that's good
is
words.
An accurate representation of how he manages, how he referees La Liga games.
That a lot of what we saw in the game, which was quite chaotic, which I didn't feel was well officiated, and I think that kind of played out in some indiscipline from both teams, and quite a lot of chaos around free kicks given, and quite a lot of moaning, and some slightly strange events like Leo Messi not being booked for volleyballing a football. That was quite odd. I feel it was kind of typical of the reputation that this referee has garnered. I don't know whether that's fair or not. I just happen to agree with it on the basis of the games that I've seen in referee in the past.
That's fine. Look, can we talk about this a little more broadly? Yeah. Carl, you seem to have opinions. So I'm coming to you. I'm going to say that, I believe this game to have been chaos. I think that, one of the most fun parts of it for me was when the Argentina player made the foul and then smashed the ball at the substitutes bench. That was very fun.
Beautiful football.
But I don't know what a referee's supposed to do in that instance. I would say that it's a kind of chicken and egg thing here. A tough game to manage and perhaps not manage that well, and that leads to the chaos, as opposed to what you said before, which was like...
You let the school children run the classroom.
Right. But sometimes the school children
you don't.
Overpower the teacher.
No, you don't. Good. You go in there...
What if they had baseball
You
bats?
go in there as the authority figure and you make it very clear from day one, or minute 10, 15, this is the standard, this is the threshold. If you cross this threshold, you'll get booked. And I'll have a conversation to you about how you do this. This individual in question is not that sort of referee. They are someone, very good friend of mine, messaged saying the referee was refereeing a game that they were imagining in their head rather than what's happening in front of you.
Sure.
They were slow to react to certain fouls. They were leading with their heart in certain activities. It was fun.
Sure.
And the way they let the game flow for large sections, only to then massively course correct by giving out so many yellow cards. Fun, enjoyable, nice chaos. We all now know this person's name. I enjoyed that refereeing experience.
Yeah.
I would not be able to handle that refereeing experience if I was a week-to-week La Liga watcher.
Yeah.
And I'm particularly someone who I really hate getting bogged down in referee decisions until the referee acts in... I'll put it to you this way. I've been sent off more than once from the substitute bench. I'm that sort of impertinent.
Oh, really?
Squad.
What for?
Oh, just I've once I got sent off for calling their refereeing performance a farce. I mean, this is totally farcical. What are you doing?
Was that it? You said farcical? Was that when he rude a language that you can't repeat here?
So I was doing I was getting quite heated in the subs bench. And I went, "You're being booked," and I went, "You can book me if you want. This is a total farce. I absolutely do not words to the effect of
that feels like 2 yellow cards.
Words
it feels like an escalation.
I don't respect. You can do what you want. I don't respect what you're doing. And I went, that's another one.
There'd be not a player left on the entire pitch if that happened. That was the standard of refereeing.
Sure.
This referee booked someone during a penalty shootout, which is one of those things that, yes, you can do, and it's well within your rights. And if someone has caused the transgression, yeah, you probably should give them a yellow card.
It isn't but part of the issue,
should you really? Is that really a clever use of your resources? And does that present the correct message?
Two things. One, we want to set the standard, right? And be the authority figure, but like your tool to doing that is yellow cards, which is what the referee did in this game, right?
Yellow cards.
The second thing is, if you
tool.
in a tournament game, when you start like a little early on the yellow cards, and it goes to extra time and penalties, you end up like you've dug a deep hole for yourself, right? Because then you kind of have to yellow card.
He didn't start early. There was a glut in the second half. Lionel Messi's yellow card
was in the 43rd minute.
No, but that's late. That's late. There was no standard set very early on. There's this massive course correction.
I just feel like it's complicated.
I just hate a lot of referees.
You hate all referees.
I do. That's a fair shout. I do. I also, you said,
it's so hard for referees.
If someone,
there's none of them left.
Carl said earlier, like, what the way to do it is to kind of, officiate, to a harder degree. And actually, I'd probably complain about that too. Like, I would probably see that also as a referee trying to make it about himself. You would. I'm not reasonable, but I don't pretend to be. It's fine.
Well, it's the thing of you say the yellow card is the tool. And I don't think the yellow card is a tool. I think the yellow card is one of many tools. Right. And very good.
Like Iron Robin's 4 or 5 feints.
Very good referees are able to, it's the cliche sort of Mike Riley, whatever, go, point, that one. There's your first yellow. Yeah. Just cut it out.
Sure.
Because also referee doesn't want to send players off.
Yeah.
Jonathan Liu once did a fantastic piece years and years ago, which basically broke down Howard Webb's cards. And he basically went, well, everyone talks about the red card he didn't give to Mr. Young in the 2010 World Cup final. Yeah. And that dramatically changed how he became a referee, because he started carding very differently after that final, which is quite interesting in that obviously referees have beats and patterns and ebbs and flows just like a football player. And it's quite interesting that this game was refereed by someone who is a known chaos entity. And lo and behold,
it's interesting though, isn't it?
We had a chaos game with 14 yellow cards.
But then for that reason,
16 yellow cards.
The reason I feel uncomfortable talking about it is this is a big podcast, right? I don't want to flatter ourselves, but it's a pretty big play, pretty big deal. Everyone's watching, not everybody. You get what I'm saying. Well, my point is, when you talk about teams, it's kind of fine, because when we criticize teams, okay, player maybe has a bad game, but they'll have a good game the next week, or you talk about the team as a whole, it's kind of a stupid job anyway. When you talk about referees, you're pretty much talking about one person. Yeah. And then, like you said, everyone criticizes Howard Webb for the card he doesn't give, and then you see the change afterwards, right? Whether that is related or not, you feel that you see that change afterwards. So when we talk about it, I know I brought it up. Yeah. I know I'm not saying anybody here's done anything wrong.
You're scared we're going to shame this person into being a different type of referee.
What do you think? Are we shaming the guy?
Maybe. I don't feel particularly good about discussing referees. It's kind of why we no. In public. It's why we don't do it a lot
this
on the
is quite
podcast.
childish
But then
from us,
it's kind of a reaction to
I'm sorry.
the chat.
No, but this is the thing. I don't think anyone's done anything wrong. I think it's a complicated situation that requires sort of nuanced conversation, right? Because also this person is a extremely senior referee at a World Cup in a quarterfinal, right? Yes. So like they are putting themselves in a position where maybe they are going to be criticised. At the same time, you hear about like the how few referees there are coming into the game, how hard that job must be, how everybody hates you, and then you've got idiots like us talking about you. Do you know what I mean?
Very difficult.
I brought it up.
Very difficult.
I brought it up. What do you think, JJ?
But what bit particularly?
I don't know. I just wanted to involve you in the conversation.
Oh, right. Yeah, I mean, the guy kind of lost control of the game because players didn't respect what his decisions were, because he's doing things where... The thing that annoys me is that they're trying to get stop having all these free kicks all the time for players who are buying free kicks. It's very obvious when they do it. They can be really strong 1 second and then suddenly let go of all that strength the next, so they can win a free kick and take their team up the pitch. Argentina did it lots. He seemed to be doing an awful lot to help out Messi in certain situations. It did seem like that. And I agree entirely with the point. It looks like sometimes some referees are refereeing the game they think is happening, what they think should be the case, rather than what's actually happening. And I can give you no better example of that than all the referees in Scotland. They're genuinely, like, I know it's live, can't swear, they're awful. Right, all of them. They're awful.
He didn't listen to anything I said. He didn't listen to anything
Willie Collum.
Oh, he's naming.
Awful.
Don't name individual referees.
He knows.
What are you talking
He
about?
went for his government name.
Well, I hope you've made that referee.
But Willie
up.
Collum referees at international level. He's Scotland's best referee.
I'm moving on now. I'm moving on. You've ignored me.
I think there is a line between
We've just crossed it.
No, but also I think the problem with refereeing and the problem with people wanting to be referees and the decline in those numbers is about abuse and the way referees are treated in the amateur game.
Yeah.
And I do understand the top-down situation, but at the same time, like, it's just the nature of the sport, unfortunately.
Sure.
It's an unfortunate aspect of it, but you are going to comment on refereeing
But
performance.
it's also
when
knowing
it-
where the walls are, right? So the thing is, so I'm saying this mostly in jest. I know that they're professional referees. Ones in Scotland are awful, but I mean in that sort of way where there's separation between me and them, right? So the thing is, there's a lot of people when I played a lot of Sunday League where there's no understanding that person is a person and they see it as an object of hatred often.
Yes.
That position of authority is telling that person they can't do the thing they want to do and they've got authority over them. And if something that switches in people, then they talk to that person like it's not a real thing. You know, when you play Sunday League, people can be like trying to start on you for no reason. Like, I don't get into the game state. I don't care. I'll try and laugh and do silly things with people in games. And there's guys trying to like, why are you moving so much? And like grab me and stuff. Like, I don't care. It's Sunday. What are you doing? But these guys, as soon as the final whistle's gone, then they're your friends again. And these guys are the ones who are going at referees and shouting at them, and that's the bit that's really horrible. But you see it sometimes when players shout things at them, like you see players saying snide things, whatever. I think saying like, "Oh, you got that wrong," is not too bad, but some people really going at them,
Shouting in
and making
the face
personal
to
things.
referees.
And kids see that and they think that's normal, and like kids copy everything. And they copy the thing when they're doing free kicks, where they
cover them out.
Kids do that. I've spoken to people that their kids play football and they say that's what the children do that because they see them doing it. So they see the grown-up footballers doing it, and it's a real problem.
I did a piece for Black History Month looking into why there's been no Premier League goalkeeper, no black referee in a Premier League game since Irani's retirement, basically over a decade ago, and spoke to two excellent individuals, Russell Hoyt, who's a level 5 referee.
How many levels are there?
So you've got levels 1 to 10 to 1, and then you've got 4 above that, which are elite referees.
Right.
So the elite referees will take your championship to FIFA and whatnot.
Yeah.
And the big threshold and the one where you start going from semi-professional to this could be your career is when you go from level 5 to level 4.
Right.
And I spoke to Ashley Hickson Lovis, who is he wrote a book with Uri Rennie's book called Your Show, and used to be a referee himself, and he had a really interesting opinion on refereeing, to which the point went, well, why would anyone be a referee? And he explained it very much like, well, why would anyone be a nurse, or why would anyone be a school teacher, right? It's a calling. It's that very strange vocation that you either get it or you absolutely do not get it.
Yeah.
And he also, between Russell and Ashley, they explained the financial costs. They explained, this bleed we're having at the grassroots level, where a lot of referees are going, this isn't worth it. The money is not great. The amount of money you have to spend on your own equipment is a lot. Trying to do courses is really difficult. Ashley explained this experience of very often to make your money back on a weekend, you have to referee 3 games. But when you referee that 3rd game, you're probably absolutely knackered from the 2 other ones. So that's when you start making mistakes. And referees hate making mistakes. They're evaluated. They absolutely understand. They don't like making mistakes, and they really prefer it to have situations where you're getting 22 handshakes, even if you have been giving out some yellow cards. So these are 2 very different subjects in that, being a referee is really hard, and it is like being those vocational jobs, like being a nurse, like being a teacher, where if you aren't one of them, it would never, ever, ever make sense why you want to be a referee. And only other referees will probably understand why other referees do that. Yeah. Which I suppose makes it even more difficult when a referee is doing, I'll put in air quotes, non-refereeing things.
Sure.
Getting emotionally heated, being sort of course correct, and you're going, why are you behaving like us?
Yeah.
In the classroom, you're the teacher.
Yeah.
Behave like the teacher, which will bring. I think that's some of my frustration. I don't like talking about referees too much, but when a referee is behaving, down to the same silly biases of me as a football player,
You don't like to see it, yeah.
I'm just going, this is a farce. I want to do better.
What was the answer to why there are no black Premier League referees? I mean, if there is an answer.
I mean, socioeconomic factors, in terms of, any sort of, why would you do that sort of job that's a vocation? Well, eventually the people that end up doing it are the people that can afford to do it, or the people that have the most time to do it, which very often means people from marginalised backgrounds and don't necessarily have the same socioeconomic benefits will go, well, maybe not. There's also the idea of, well, you need to see it in order to achieve it. And if you haven't had a black referee in a Premier League game for more than a decade, there's a number of black referees lower down the pyramid. I'm going, maybe this is not for me. Maybe there is, what was described to me by Russell, is there's something of a glass basement for talented black referees. And something I found was really nice was when I asked both of them, I went, look, we know about referee abuse. We've seen various Premier League managers get up in referees' faces. Have you, as referees, your refereeing career, had that abuse with the racial element? And they said, no, not really. They've had experiences with abuse. Russell is a bit older than myself. And he speaks with a widely veteran's experience, and he goes, that sort of abuse, I get my car and go home. I don't sit in the clubhouse and do that. And I have to teach the referees that he's a referee consultant as well. So if you want to do this and want this to be your career, you need to be, water for ducks back.
Yeah.
Which again is that thing of, I'm sure through this very nice profession we all have, where we're footballing adjacent, we could probably finagle a discounted rate to become referees or write a piece on, I became a referee for a day. Which it shouldn't, that's not how things should work, really. But also, if someone offered me the chance to be a referee, absolutely not. I mean, I'll learn it from an academic sense to know which ways a referee runs in a game.
Yeah.
But I would never want to be a referee for more than like a game.
I don't think I could.
Academic
I don't think I could deal with.
So
it.
maybe I should actually be quiet and apologise to those.
Maybe you should say sorry now.
I know you apologize.
You got nothing to apologise for.
I can sum that up just to get us into the football. Is that I once had to run the line, the team I was playing for. So no, you have to do the line because there's no linesman. And I had to run the line, which I did not want to do, and called offside against, the ball. The guy who was onside definitely didn't put my flag up, and the left back on my own team was screaming at me. It was awful, and that's my own teammate and me just getting the decision right. You got wrong.
I bet you were rubbish at it though, weren't you?
I wasn't really trying, but I was right.
I wasn't really
I
trying.
was right.
There he is.
I was level with it.
I wasn't trying,
JJ.
bro.
I was level with the play. Anyway, someone in the
believe
chat suggested a robot referee, and I mean, I'm all for that.
I like
having
that.
a robot on the pitch would be amazing, like RoboCop. But
I'm
for
so
football.
tempted to go down another tangent, but that's just because I want to talk to you about it. I'll talk to you about it.
Let's do
after.
football again. We'll go to that.
Let's have another break, and when we come back, we'll do some more football because, of course, Brazil aren't in the World Cup anymore. So we'll talk about
Small
that.
news bit.
Okay, lovely break that was. Croatia won Brazil 4-2 on penalties. Now this game feels like quite a long time ago. JJ Bull, what the hell happened?
What happened? Well, it was a really fun game, but Croatia essentially stopped Brazil from playing the way they want to play. And Brazil didn't stop Croatia so much playing the way they want to play. It's more like Croatia don't have any speed or like real penetration in the final thirds. So they just control the game, pass it around the midfield. The midfield three of Brozovic, Modric and Kovacic. Just spelled Brozovic wrong on the board if you're watching on the stream. Thanks. They just control everything, but then they don't really use anything to get through for the wide players. And then I can't really remember what happened in the game because it was so long ago. But I have done a video about it on Tifo IRL, and Carl knows.
Carl, do you want to have a go?
I'll have a go. So, yes, this Croatia team, when they click into gear, when that midfield clicks into gear, amazing, fantastic. One of the best central midfield trios we've seen since the last central midfield trio Croatia made. But it takes them longer to get into gear and to click into that formation. And they can't sustain it for as long as they did when one of those players was Rakitic or when Luka Modric was 4 years younger and whatnot. So that is the inefficiencies of Croatia. And I think one of the big things with this Brazil team is Danilo, who is a right back, is on the left, which meant a lot of their ball progression down the left-hand side was very one-sided. I also think Chiche kind of ballsed up his substitutes.
You think?
So what the way you beat Croatia, and I'm going to reference her work again because I think her work is fantastic. Grace Robinson, great newsletter, Grace on Football on Twitter. She has written about how you stop Croatia by you chuck a wrench in that midfield. You just chug it, you just churn it up, and you stop that from getting into gear. And they don't really have the P and pace and power and penetrating punch out wide or up front. But if you just put something in there, you're great. But this midfield pairing of Casemiro and Paquetá, sorry. Paquetá is an 8. He's adventurous. He wants to get into the final third, as does Neymar. Neymar often drifts left, even though he's the 10 as well. So they're all flooding forward. So you have Casemiro essentially trying to take on one of the best trios out there. I don't know. The stream can come up with a really nice nickname for that trio. I quite like Cerberus.
Oh, that's fantastic.
That is good.
Yeah, that's great.
For how that's going on, which meant the midfield battle is toing and froing in a way that it shouldn't. Because Danilo is right-footed on the left-hand side, that cuts down a certain amount of crossing angles. JJ is very good at explaining crossing angles because I saw him do it in a really nice piece involving Anthony against Newcastle. And this meant, and Rafinha wasn't on a great day as well. So you've got problems in midfield, you've got problems out wide. You want to keep Neymar because he's your best on-ball creator. Vinicius Junior and Rafinha are meant to be running in behind. So those are your issues there. One of the things that's also became quite apparent during this game is Brazil are best defending when they have the ball. Yeah. They've got a soft underbelly that Thiago Silva is very good at doing smoke and mirrors and going, don't notice it. Yeah. I'm old, but I'm standing in the correct position, so you don't realize how soft.
Don't you come over here? You'll regret it.
Hey, Casemiro, step 5 yards right. Hey, you stopped it, so you don't notice the soft underbelly. Yeah. So that's how Brazil defend, and it's a lot of it via very good, secure ball circulation. But Croatia's strength is, we'll have the ball and we'll just hold it for ages. So you saw more weaknesses in Brazil's defensive plan because Croatia, even though they weren't particularly good penetrating, were just marching up and every now and again tickling the soft underbelly, so to speak. Tickle. I'd say at the hour mark, it becomes quite apparent that Chiche should mix up his midfield. But something I found quite curious was he was making more or less like-for-like changes with the subs. So Vinicius Junior comes out, and who comes on for Vinicius Junior? Rodrigo. And Rafinha comes out for Anthony, which Anthony very left-footed, very, very, very left-footed on the right wing. Is sort of Rafinha, but not as good at on-ball create as Rafinha, but is more tenacious going forward. I think is a fair assessment. And Rodrigo is not the on-ball creator or running in behind threat of Vinicius. So they sort of went for their plan B was slightly fresher but worse players than their plan A, which meant they didn't solve the problems they had.
Did you find
my
that,
interpretation of the situation.
This is how I felt, because it felt like with the Brazilian changes, nothing actually changed. If you look, by contrast, if you look at the changes that Croatia made, and I understand the game state was different for them, and some of it was about urgency. Petkovic for Kramaric is really the only one that could be considered a like for like. Vlasic for Pasalic is different. Lovren Mayer for Kovacic, different. Biedermeier for Sosa is a last sort of, it's a put the big man in the box and say for the best. I get that, but it feels like exactly that. It's just you're changing players based on their condition state rather than saying, right, well, Croatia have kind of come up with an answer for everything we've thrown at them for 120 minutes. So let's do something different, or 40 minutes, 50 minutes, 6 minutes, whatever the state was in the game. It wasn't very imaginative.
Yes, to go back to the cooking analogy. If Chiche was making this dinner, he would go, "Oh, this I haven't quite got the ratio right.
Keep chucking pepper.
Let me just keep putting more powder to try and correct the ratio." Where you're going, mate, you might need to use the spice rack. You might need to. The fact Bruno Guimaraes didn't come on was quite interesting to me, because I thought Guimaraes in for Paquetá, or possibly another midfield on top of that would have rebalanced that midfield battle. And I think Danilo having to play on the left instead of Alexandro was injured really curbed ball progression down on the left hand side as well. Okay, well that's what happened. How big a surprise is it, Seb? I mean, Brazil out in the quarterfinals. We were starting to think of them to be honest, I was starting to think that Brazil-Argentina semi-final was definitely going to happen. I thought Brazil might edge that game. I could see them going all the way and winning it. But we've said on this podcast before, Croatia, not a team you want to play.
No, I suppose the right word is wily. They've been in these situations a lot. There was a tweet that went around saying, I think that 8 of the last 9 games they've played in the World Cup knockout rounds or tournament knockout games have gone to 90 minutes. I've gone to extra time or penalties.
Yes. But they managed to get all the way to the final in 2018 without winning a knockout game in 90 minutes. Right?
Yeah, to be honest, like the way I see Croatia is as a side who are really, really good at stealing momentum from a game, who are really good at either taking it away, distilling it, taking kind of any rhythm out of a side's performance. And they've done it time and time again, and they've also done it against really high-powered sides. And no more high-powered than Brazil, right? Because they are the team of the tournament to this point. They've been probably the most destructive favourite that we've seen. And they've played some of the best football. Also, interestingly, some of the most intricate attacking football, some of the most well-connected. If you look at like Richarlison's influence on that Brazilian side, look at how well Vinicius has played. Neymar has had moments, didn't have the best game this evening, but he's had moments. And yet they have they're able to diffuse anything. It's it's very, very interesting.
Have you seen the TV series of What We Do in the Shadows?
No.
Have you guys seen this?
Bits. It's good. It's funny.
It's quite fun. Well, anyway, for listeners, it's about vampires. It's a mockumentary series about vampires. But one of the vampires is an energy sucker as opposed to a blood sucker.
This is Croatia.
And the difference here is that Croatia don't play boring football, and like the joke in the show is that the guy will go and work in a random office and just bore people with small talk and then absorb their energy and loves it that way. But Croatia, they don't appear to go about beating other teams by sucking the blood out of their neck. They get the energy in a different way, right, JJ?
They're submission specialists. Sorry, JJ, I've just intercepted.
Yeah, sure. So they are really interesting tactically, and like you're saying about the ball progression on the left for Brazil, I think the real reason for that is that what they were doing was a very specific thing with the goal. So when Brazil were trying to build out from the back, goal kicks was the word I stopped saying there. The centre back split. And what they want to do is try and play for the goalkeeper to the centre backs, right? But they put Kramaric, the centre striker, rather than being in the middle between the two, working out where they're going to go. They always put him slightly to the right. So Alisson wouldn't pass out to Thiago Silva on the left, he'd pass out to Marquinhos on the right, and they'd have other players, the press would trigger in a different way. But then what that meant was that Pasalic would be next to where Danilo was, so they wouldn't then try a switch or whatever. Modric, Kovacic and Brozovic would push up a little bit to be near the midfield. Even though Brazil don't really have a midfield, so they just basically play with a front four, and then Paqueta joins in a little bit, and Casemiro play. They play with 2 separate units basically, and the midfield becomes the defenders pushing up. But this little tactic here means that this guy always has to go down the right, and you saw all their build-ups in the first half. All of them were going down this side here, and so the here is the right-hand side of the pitch, I should say. And so that's what happened. So Vinicius Junior's touch map, if you can find a copy of it somewhere. Basically, what you'd normally expect to see is Vinicius Junior would be a bit deeper, level roughly with Rafinha, because they're receiving it in the midfield part of play, so the middle third of the build-up. They'd want to receive the ball around there, but Vinicius Junior was only touching the ball in the last third when there was a turnover midfield, when one of the midfield 3 gave the ball away, which they hardly ever did because they're amazing. And so that's when Vinicius Junior was getting involved. So he was basically out of the game, wasn't receiving the ball deep. So his touch map looks like he's all the way up in the top left when he should have been deeper. And that then meant that Vinicius Junior wasn't involved, and the manager took him off. And he was probably their most dangerous attacking player. Yeah. Juranovic kind of had him covered, I think. Me and Seb disagreed with this, but I think he had him pretty much covered. Seb doesn't agree with that. It doesn't matter because it's done now. And Brazil are gone. It doesn't matter. But yeah, and the thing with Croatia is that that's one small tactic. In the second half, Brazil changed a little bit, and they started making sure that they'd play it to the right, bring Kramaric over, and then they switch it with a high chip ball, and then they were able to play it on the left a lot more. But that, that's what they did. Didn't really make much difference now. It's the first phase of build-up. But Croatia can just squish a game, take all the life out of it. The one thing they don't have is when you do that, you need to be able to up the tempo a bit, and that's what they lack. But they are good at getting the ball into the box early for forwards with an overlapping fullback, normally joined in with Perisic or something like that.
Well, also, I mean, if you don't need to win in 90 minutes and you score all of your penalties, then
tournament football, right? It's the same as Southgate. You play it to win the game rather than
smart. It feels like they play in little 5-minute sections every game, because one of my favorite things that Croatia do is, I haven't got the ball, but there are phases that they play which which go nowhere. Essentially, it's a little pass out of trouble. It's a pass across the pitch. It's everybody working back into position, and it just, if you play against it, it must ruin you, because you go from building attacking momentum, as Brazil tried to do, and you saw them kind of, there was an attempt to kind of build the urgency as the second half wore on, and then you'd have this little 2 or 3 minute phase where Modric pirouettes out, outside of the right across the pitch. There's Sosa on the far touchline. Oh, he's going to come back across. And JJ's absolutely right. Like, the weakness is that they can never really get out of that gear. They don't have a number 9 who can score proper goals, or goals at all. But at the same time, they're kind of like it's kind of like a martial art where you never actually throw an attacking strike. Yeah. You just continually block and defend and move.
It's the old heavyweight boxer who, every time you build up some momentum, will just clinch you. And every time we release, like, there you go, let you go, and I'm going to give you a little love tap.
Yeah. I always thought watching Joe Calzaghe box wasn't very fun, but he used to win every single match.
Yeah.
You never do any punches, you just let them try and hit him and then get a little jab on them.
It is very effective tournament football, and anyone playing Croatian needs to have a game plan prepared to take it to 120.
Yeah.
And I work at the Athletics. So I'm sure at some point in time, the Athletics going to try and write a piece of why does a country of 4 million people create technically secure midfielders en masse. What's also been really interesting, and I think has always wrong-footed me when I try and predict Croatia and try and misdiagnose the decline of Croatia, was when Rakitic left, they looked a little bit more ordinary Euros. Kovacic's great strength is he's a very press-resistant dribbler. Brozovic is a very secure number 6. So you're like, okay, you've got a dribbly boy, a passy boy, Modric, and a tackly boy. And they're not. They're all passy boys. They're all passy boys to a level that...
They're all very similar profile player, yeah.
Yeah,
so, and they just spin round in a constantly...
They can constantly change the profile. And there are points in time where you can almost see one of the players go, I'm kind of tired, because you take over passing duties for me now. And Kovacic today was exceptional at not being the dribbly boy that we're used to seeing at Chelsea, but just being very, very good. He's always press resistant, but being very technically secure with his passes. Brozovic has... James Horncastle is always singing his praises as being one of the best defensive midfielders that will never play in the Premier League.
Yeah.
I have a question for JJ. Why is Gamerish not playing? Why is he not involved in any way whatsoever?
In the Brazil team.
Yeah, like that. It's...
You don't really need him, because the whole point is you've got this front four. So the front four is meant to then stop play going into the midfield. So then you don't really need a midfield against that battle, because they can sit behind it. So you've got Paquetá and Casemiro sit deeper. Paquetá can play both in that kind of role as a partner to Casemiro if you need him, but you can also push in to be an extra forward, so you get a front 5 flanked with other people if you want, and then rather than having fullbacks overlap to give you your width that way, you have amazing wingers 1v1 with fullbacks, which works really well. It makes so much sense now. So many teams for so long have been making the front 5 with the fullbacks, but why wouldn't you just make it wingers? It's so obvious, and now it's all changed back to being that, and it's like a 4-2-4 really. It's a return of the 4-4-2. Like Holland are doing something, so Netherlands are doing something similar today, where they're playing it more a lot of depth between centre backs and forwards, and hooking it long to big lads who can disrupt and try and build it that way. Whereas Brazil want to play through lines, and then the full backs. It's very much like what I think the old Brazil teams played like, but in a more modern
in what sense?
Because they used to play all 4-2-4, but then you'd also get players just joining in for the fun.
The old Brazilian.
Yeah.
Sorry.
And then the thing is, you don't have to defend if you're constantly attacking. And they just couldn't do it as well, because I think Croatia just killed the game. It's really clever game management from them. I think the manager for Croatia has done an incredible job, because there's a lot of players in that team who aren't amazing. Like Juranovic plays for Celtic, and they're all right. Right, but he was really good in this game. Sosa is obviously a very good player. Gvardiol is top notch. Lovren was done at the top level a long time ago, it looked like, but yet here he is doing really well in this team, because what he does is very functional. He can carry the ball out from the back. The midfield 3, sure enough, you're lucky to have those there, but the forward line,
Perisic doesn't play like this for Spurs.
Yeah, exactly.
Perisic is still a good player. He looks like he's 25 in this Croatian team. It's amazing.
And there's something to them, and something with like the magic of the World Cup and people being able to play up a little bit.
Who was that?
Well, that's what happens. It's sprinkled with magic. Yeah. But also, the manager's getting exactly what he needs out of them for the opponent they're playing against. The old teams they've beaten. Like, they were in the World Cup final 4 years ago.
Zlatko Dalic.
It's incredible. Yeah.
There we go. Okay, fine. Well, listen, it was penalties again today. Neymar, we assume, who actually tied Pele's Brazil scoring record, 77 goals.
What
today.
a goal!
It was a very good
what
goal.
a goal.
It was. Would you like to talk about the goal, Carl? Or would you like to exclaim one more time?
What a goal!
There we go. That'll do. We assume that he was down to take the 5th penalty. Interestingly, later on in the second game, Messi took the first penalty. I wonder if that was always in the plan, or whether is that a kind of.
Well, Chiche has actually
this is how
spoken
it's
about
done.
this. So he
Really?
talked about wanting Neymar to take the 5th penalty because it was a pressure penalty. It's one of those issues where what you think of Neymar and his career will probably define how you respond to that. In the sense of, he wants the 5th penalty because he wants all the glory and he wants the moment, versus what I think is a pretty rational explanation, which is that the 5th penalty is typically crucial. You don't usually have a situation where you're that bad at taking penalties.
Yeah.
You would have expected it to get to the 5th.
It was crucial with Lautaro in the.
It was
in the second
indeed.
game as
You
well.
want a good penalty taker. You want a pressure-resistant player taking it,
Yeah.
and it's just unlucky. But I suppose a lot of people will project the PSG
One
thing.
thing I will say,
Yeah.
So the Neymar's goal is really interesting to me because he does 2-1-2s,
Yeah.
takes it round the goalkeeper, and then has that little pause to go, instead of just crashing it low, I'm going to crash it up high because I know that a Croatian defender will try and get a block in.
Yeah.
really clever.
And there are, if you are the person that believes Neymar is a self-aggrandizing prima donna who's constantly diving and Neymar doesn't score that goal. Neymar falls over. There's 2 very good opportunities for Neymar to fall over, whereas Neymar does the thing that Neymar fans have often longed for him to do, which is completely take over this game, please.
Yeah.
I think that's why that goal is remarkable.
It was a Messi-like quality. You remember, like we talked earlier in the tournament about Messi's goal against Mexico, when it wasn't a great game, there wasn't a lot of attacking impetus. Argentina weren't creating anything until, right, I'm just going to punch this through and I'm going to decide this game right now. It was like that. It was like, I'm going to drop deep. I'm taking the ball. I'm going to plot my route right the way through this defense, and I'm going to score with like an exquisite finish. And it's, I find him really conflicting because I love watching him at his best. I just feel like his best is something which can be a little bit elusive at times. And I don't know. I suppose this is a conversation for 10, 20 years' time when we look back on his career as a whole, but it just feels like you're starved of these little brilliant moments, and we should have had more of them. That might be just the greedy football fan in me. I don't know.
I mean, equal Pele's all-time Brazilian.
No, that is a very fair point.
Yeah.
But I mean, at the same time, like, do you feel like you've got your money's worth out of Neymar at World Cups? Do you feel like
No,
got
because
it out
I
of
want him
top
to be
career?
scoring like 40 a season. I mean, he was one of the best players in the world by a mile when he was at Barcelona. He was absolutely amazing. I remember I went to see him play, and he was so much fun to watch. But you can't do it every single game, I guess. And he's had a lot of problems with injuries, and he goes, I don't know.
He hasn't played more than 2,000 minutes in a season since, I want to say, 2018, perhaps even 2019.
Then this is kind of the Messi Ronaldo effect, though, isn't it? Because it's turned people like me into thinking we should have this all the time, three goals a week, and excellence on tap, and it's just not like that anymore.
No.
Maybe it's unrealistic.
We were truly spoiled by the prolonged excellence. It is a lot like tennis in that there was just that prolonged excellence.
Ridiculous group of
from
players.
Federer, from Nadal, and then Djokovic turned up, and that was amazing. And yeah, if you were anyone else outside those 3, okay, maybe you can win a Grand Slam, but that was it. And yeah, I think we got the full Neymar experience here, in that you spent the better part of an hour going, why won't this guy press the button, become amazing? He did press the button, turn up to be amazing, but also it wasn't enough to win the game. And there was always that sort of, but maybe just out of sight, there was that thing he could have done. Why did he wait until take the 5th penalty? The 5th penalty did evoke the image of Cristiano Ronaldo in Euro 2012, where Portugal played Spain, and he was meant to take the 5th penalty, but the shootout didn't take to 5. And I remember it quite clearly, in that Ronaldo just sort of stood there on the halfway line, and he had both of his hands behind his head like this.
Yeah.
And I imagine that's a particularly maddening form if you are a football player who is known for your ability to take over, and when they give you the moment, you can provide, to not have that moment there for you.
Yeah. Well, there it is, eh? Now, listen, I mean, we could apply that probably to Brazil as a whole. They were obviously favourites before the game. A little bit of criticism for them at half-time and extra time, for appearing to celebrate, Sam.
Yeah, I'm not having the criticism.
No?
I thought about this, and my immediate reaction was, "Ooh, that's a bit smug." But then, on reflection, no, because
You think that about everything.
I do think that
on
about
a
everything.
media
Referees,
reflection.
people, football players,
Everybody hates smugglers.
you know,
Yeah.
just people generally.
Oh, the way he said hello, how are
yeah,
you?
no,
Was a
that
bit,
was very obnoxious, wasn't
What's
it?
he suggesting?
Are
No.
smugglers smug?
Smugglers are smug, yeah.
Probably
Yeah.
are.
With a
Depending
little
on like
fishing
if
boat
they
and they're
smuggled
stealing
something
things?
really great, then you'd probably be quite
Yeah.
smug and
What do you used to
self-satisfied.
smuggle though? It's all like
You
treasure.
know,
Jewels
smugglers
and-
with luxury duvets are also snug.
I
You know what I'm saying?
nutmeg.
Yeah.
I don't have
the,
a problem with
term.
it, Joe. Like, just because
Yeah.
it's an amazing goal. I think if you're celebrating in front of that Brazilian crowd and you've scored a goal of that quality, I think you can afford a smile. I think we kind of police this stuff a little bit too harshly now.
Okay. Fine. Well, I
They're
think
going to play each other in a semi-final.
Yeah, of course they are. Yeah, I mean,
Croatia
and
versus
Argentina.
Argentina.
Yes, I mean, we have no time to talk about that, but
Yeah.
we could talk about it a bit tomorrow
Sure thing.
potentially. Let's quickly play Points Are Bad.
Ooh, that's
Should we listen to a little song of Points Are Bad? Yeah. We might not have enough headphones, so you might need to share with
Tell you
Carl.
what, you go for it, Carl. I know the.
Yeah,
I
Seb's
can. I
heard it long
can. I can
enough.
hum it in my head.
We'll all put
It's
our
okay.
headphones on, and when producer Don's ready, we'll hear a little bit of Points Are Bad.
Points are bad.
Points are bad. They're really, really
Oh, it's the original Points Are Bad.
Points are good.
Feels very slow now, isn't it?
Really bad, yes. Points are bad. Points are bad. Points are bad. You don't want the points because they're really, really bad.
That's crazy.
There we go. Points are bad.
Very
now.
Kraftwerk-esque.
Okay. Yes, very much so. Now, listen, let's all remember points are bad as we go and play this game now. Very interesting in this game. Very interesting, JJ. Because, of course, it is the end of day 18, the first of the quarterfinals. This day changed repeatedly throughout the second game as the scoreline changed. JJ, I can tell you there was a time when you were leading today's score during the second game. But I'm sad to tell you that you are today's loser with 5 points added.
You
in
don't
the
look sad
two
when you say
games.
that.
No, I'm not actually sad. That was just politeness that drove me to say that. You added 3 because, of course, your prediction for Netherlands-Argentina was a 1-0 win to Argentina. It turned out 2-2, of course. At one point, I was joint first, and then I came second last with 4 points added. John McKenzie and Seb Stafford-Bloor, a joint victory today on just 2 points each. Very impressive. Both picking up just the 1 point in each game there. So congratulations. I'll come back to the grand totals after we do our predictions for tomorrow. But JJ Bull, you are first to pick, and we know how difficult you find it when you are first. I'm just getting John's picks up and ready. Now let's begin with Morocco, Portugal, and I am going to have to press you now to give me a score instantly.
0-0.
0-0. Okay, fine. Next will be me. Morocco, Portugal. I think this is going to be a huge game. I think 2-3. I think Portugal are going to win, but I think it's going to be 2-3. Yeah. Now, John will go next, and I think we'll find out why shortly. But John's Portugal 2, Morocco 0 is his suggestion. Now, Seb, you're last.
I'm going to go Portugal 3, Morocco 1.
Oh, you gone for a 3-1
Yeah,
there?
yeah.
Okay, that's kind of what I've said.
Yep.
Except with one less goal for Morocco.
Yes, indeed.
Okay, fine. JJ Bull, England, France. He's been thinking about it this whole time. He hasn't listened to anything anyone said.
Can't wait.
Oh, I'm not trying at the game.
No, I am trying now. For
No,
a while
you're
I wasn't,
trying.
and then I started to do things that were funny to
Yeah,
entertain myself.
see,
But
there
now
you
I'm
go.
fully in, baby.
There
And
he
I
goes.
think it's going to be. What do I really think? This is hard. I don't know what I really think.
What do you actually think?
I don't know.
I know, no, I don't want you just to say that you think France are going to win because you said to me in the office earlier you think England are going to win.
Yeah, I'm a bit
So
worried.
just come on, say it.
All right, here we
Say
go.
it, say
I
it,
think
say
it's
it.
going to be. Let's see, 1-1.
Oh, he can't quite bring himself.
do it, can he?
He can't
Can't
quite bring
do it.
himself to say it. I'm of course gonna say
5-0.
5-0. John is next. John believes it's France
Consistency.
2, England 0. I've actually put him as 2-0 England, but no. Seb Stafford-Bloor.
I will say France 2, England 1.
France 2, England won. So I'm the only person to predict there an England win.
You're going to be right. It's going to be like 3-0 or something.
You've gone for 1-1. That's not a bad shout.
No, yeah.
Against
not a bad
France.
shout.
Is it for 120 minutes, we said, isn't it?
The whole game. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's pretty long.
All right.
Okay, so the grand totals after match day 18 are as follows. I am in last place, of course, with 134 points. Now, remember, points are bad. In second place, I thought this had switched, but apparently it hasn't just yet. In third place, sorry, is still John on 130, but with 129. JJ, you are cutting it fine, dear. And now, way out in head on 125, a whole 4 points clear.
It makes me so happy.
Listen, there are only how many games left? We did 2 for tomorrow. We've got 2 next week. 6 if we include the round, the third place playoff. 4 points is a big gap with 6 games left. You got your work cut out for you to get back into this JJ Bull because Seb Stafford is first on 100.
I've been trying so hard. I've been trying so hard at it. Yeah.
There we go. Very exciting stuff. Okay, fine. Well, there we go. That was points are bad. JJ Bull, thank you very much.
Yeesh.
Seb Stafford Bloor, thank you very much.
You're most welcome, Joe.
Thanks as usual to Mr. Carl Anker.
GG.
It was a GG, wasn't
nice.
it? I thought that was a pretty
chat.
good GG. Yeah. And thanks to excuse me. Oh. Thanks to Jamie and Don in the production suite over there. Thanks to editor Joe, who'll be editing this when he gets home. Yeah, very happy about that. And I hope Nathan's having a lovely time doing something which is not for me. And we'll be back tomorrow, I think we're joined by Kiva tomorrow.
Yes, you are.
Kiva O'Neill,
We
very
are.
excited
What a
about that.
treat.
And then it's the semi-finals, and then it's the final. So close, isn't it? So close. Right. Ta-ra. See you later.
Ta-ta.
Bye-bye. Ta-ta.
Imagine I installed like a gunge thing above you. And then I just
Every night at the same time.
I would do it
Fun
one day
house.
randomly. That'd be really funny. But,